So, you want more, do you? Okay, that's actually like exactly how I started the last behind the scenes video, but I thought it was funny. So, like you just watched an hour and a half movie and you're like, yeah, I want more of that. This isn't more of that. This is a very chill video where I just kind of sit here and talk about making this stupid thing because I think it's pretty interesting. And each of these behind the scenes videos, I also did one for Silver Eyes and Twisted Ones. Each of them kind of, I think, gets more interesting. First one was kind of bland. Second one, I introduced more interesting things, I hope. And this one, I intend to do the same. So, I want to sort of talk about a couple things. First, I want to talk about some references I threw in here that nobody's caught, or very few people have caught. And I want to talk about them because what's the point of references if no one sees them? Second, I also want to show you just the scope of this project and show you kind of how it was made in case you haven't seen the other behind the scenes videos, and also how much had to go into it. Like, how many sound effects did I use throughout the whole thing? How many voice lines did I need from everybody? How did I actually put it all together to begin with? Stuff like that. Um, and I also want to talk. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about what I want to do in the future. I kind of want to keep the future of the channel fairly vague for now. I've got ideas. I've got plans. I'm working on them already, but I kind of want to keep them to myself for now until they're more fleshed out and until I have something more to actually show for my ideas. There's one thing I'm working on. I'm like halfway done it, and it's this huge series, and I'm still not wanting to say much about it, except people who are like our patrons and stuff. Hey, become a patron if you haven't already. They know a little bit more. I think I made an announcement in there about this specific project, but I haven't told them as much as I've done so far. There's still stuff that I don't know that I've been like working on with that project and other projects entirely that I'm working on. So it's a whole mess. Anyway, let's talk about the Fourth Closet, the final dub in this graphic novel dub series. And there's also Fazbear Frights. I mentioned in the last behind the scenes video, I'm not going to be doing Fazbear Frights because the art looks less good and it looks more rushed. And also, I'm just kind of feeling fatigued in the first place with these things. I want to move on to something else. Just generally because, like, I've been doing so much dubs. The past almost a year has been doing this project. And other stuff too, but not much. And so it's like, hey, I need to do something new. If people want Fazbear Frights dubs, I think someone else will probably make one. Maybe I'll make one in the future, but I don't really see that happening because I have other stuff that is going to take a long time to get through. I have a whole list of ideas. Anyway, can you tell I'm excited about those? I keep bringing them up because I am excited. So the first thing that I want to go through is let's first go through and just kind of show what it took to make all of this in general, because it's a lot. So in case you're wondering how many sound effects it took to make all of this, and some of this is for other videos too, but most of this is for the dubs, 400 sound effects were used to make all of these happen, which is quite crazy, and a lot of them were like reused as well. So if I wanted separate ones for each time, say, a car hit its brakes, it would be a lot more, probably closer to like 1,000. So that's a little crazy. I don't know if this is interesting, but here's all the pages and stuff. I used a filter to make them all black and white for the credits, and I colorized them, so that ended up having a cool effect where it's like silhouettes of all the creatures in the credits, which I thought was cool. Yeah, they've all been upscaled because they were kind of pixely to begin with. Now they're like nice and smooth, and it looks nice when you zoom in on video. You don't see a bunch of pixels. I don't know if that's interesting, but I figured I'd mention. Here's everybody's lines. Here I have a folder for everybody. It used to be a lot worse because I would right now I split everyone's stuff up into like chapters. It used to be I would just put them all in one folder and I couldn't find anything. Now it's much easier. Oh look, here's Charlie's lines. As you can see, there's a lot just for chapter 8 here. Some of them are doubles because I like had to remove like a bit more background noise or whatever. Like there's like a little bit of static in the background, so I get rid of it, and then I have 2 copies, whatever. But it's a lot in general, and this is for like every character. Obviously, some have bigger roles than others. Like here, the reporter looks like 2 original files here, and then 2 copies of each. But like now it's easy to find them.
That was you. I thought it was.
I don't know what the context of that line is, but there's one. I also have a full folder for bloopers. If you haven't checked out the bloopers video yet, you should find it in the same place you found this video. I think they're pretty funny, probably more interesting than this is. I still have everyone's auditions, at least all the ones that I was considering for casting. I have them all here, in case I need to find them for whatever reason. Some of them I even used in the final product, in the final dub, so it's important that I keep them. So here they are. Even people who weren't chosen for the roles, like it was hard to make a lot of these choices. Circus Baby especially had a lot of really good auditions. I remember that one was hard to choose. Yeah, there's little Among Us guy here. If you haven't noticed, in I think it's chapter 7. No, in chapter 6, when Carlton is talking to John, and John mentions the Charlie imposter. This guy shows up in the bottom left corner of the screen for like a split. Like he pops up and then he pops back down as the panel moves. I think only like 2 people have seen it. There's an Among Us guy just hidden in chapter 6. So if you haven't seen him yet, go looking for him. He's there. Let me know if you find him, because so far it seems like he's been hidden pretty well. There's other stuff like that too that I've hidden in here, but that's the one that I was shocked that people didn't find, honestly, for the most part. As always, we have our soundtrack done by The Wild Guess. I have one more spot here that I haven't filled in yet with our last track. When I'm recording this, we still have like one more music track to add to chapter 9. The epilogue's done, the credits are done, everything's done. We just need to add one more music track, and then the whole dub is ready to go. So here we have the soundtrack, all of it, all the new stuff anyway. Even some unused bits. Check out the soundtrack video too if you haven't already. Here we have all 4 Charlies. Maybe a bit spoilery if you haven't seen the book yet, but I would hope anyone who sees this sort of album cover thing does know the story by now. Let's take a look at the individual chapters, shall we? See if there's anything interesting there. So of course the dub starts with this flashback of when Charlie was eaten. I love that scene from the Twisted Ones anyway, so I figured, hey, it's a cool way to sort of transition into the next sequel, and it allows me to use that scene again, which I really wanted to do. Then we've got some opening credits, which I think I did the same thing in the Twisted Ones. I thought, hey, at the end of the dubs, it's kind of just one credit sequence where everyone is. I want to give a special little spot to all of the main cast, because they've been doing a whole lot for this project, so I figured, hey, let's put them right here in the opening credits. Obviously, I would do that for everyone if I had time, but I think people would get would get tired of sitting through like 5 minutes of credits where everyone's name and picture slowly goes across the screen. So I did it with like everyone who, I think I had a certain threshold. I think it was like everyone with more than 10 lines. That might be it. I don't know. I don't remember, but I wanted to put a couple people here, the people who've been the biggest part of this, because I figured I kind of owed it to them. Anyway. Here's John with a Ukraine flag background. That's cool. Oh yeah, here we have John with a flashback where all of like a lot of past events from the series sort of can be heard behind him, and he's sort of like reminiscing about stuff. And here with the TV commercial, there's a laugh that plays. It's actually Krusty the Clown from not SpongeBob SquarePants, from The Simpsons. In case you find that interesting. There it is. One thing I always didn't like about Aunt Jen's death in the graphic novel is it's so tame. In the original novel, she is kind of torn apart. And in the graphic novel, she's just kind of like thrown against a wall. And I was like, hey, that's not good enough. I want her to really suffer. And so I was like, how can I convey that she's like really dead? And at first I was like, I'll just like put a picture of blood here, and they'll be like, oh, there's actually blood. She's actually like kind of dead. But I figured, well, I can do better. I need to have like some sort of impact, I figured I could play like a sound effect, like of like a squelching or something. The amount of sound effects I have that are just straight up gore sounds is honestly kind of concerning. But I figured, hey, that's not good enough either. We need to really like show that she's like she's not coming back from this. And so I was like, I need an actual like picture that is, or a clip that is like, it's messed up, but it's also like not too in your face, and it's kind of subtle because I also don't want it to be like super jarring and awful. And I remembered a specific scene from season 2 of Attack on Titan, episode 1, where a soldier is like torn apart, and I was like, it's you only see his silhouette, and so I was like, hey, you only see the silhouette, so I think this could kind of work here because it doesn't show who the person is. I could just reuse that one short clip, and sure enough, I put it in here, and you can kind of tell like, oh, yeah, she's not doing so good. It's a bit jarring, I think, now looking back, that's like the one sort of animated part of the thing. But all in all, I think it's effective, and I haven't heard from anyone that they didn't like it. I've only heard people speak positively about that scene, because people noticed, just not in a negative light. So that works for me, and I think it's not too in your face either. Like, it's a silhouette, so you can tell what's going on, and it conveys the point I'm looking for. I think it works pretty well. Also, here I believe is where Charlie's voice sort of becomes Elizabeth's voice. The problem with having two different Charlies in this book was, how do you tell them apart? Because they're supposed to kind of look the same and sound the same. And so what I figured is, well, fake Charlie, she's actually Circus Baby. She's actually Elizabeth. So in that form, she's going to have a different voice. And I figured, well, when she has no need to pretend anymore, maybe she just stops using the Charlie voice and it sort of like transitions into her actual Elizabeth voice. And I figured, hey, that's a good way where, especially when they're in the same scene, we can tell them apart, because otherwise it's going to be very confusing. Because you're going to hear essentially just someone talking to herself, and that maybe works for a short time. But if you have to listen to a whole conversation of that, you eventually can't tell like who is talking to who. And so that's where this cool transition comes in, which I'm really proud of.
I love you too.
Just a little glitch, and she's all of a sudden an entirely different person. It's super easy to do, but I like how it turned out. I have nothing in particular to say about this next scene. I just really like it. So let's just play it out in full.
Oh, Jessica's been caught. Oh, Jessica. She fought, but now she's going to die. Oh, my.
Springtrap.
I don't have anything in particular to say, but people in the comments really loved that scene, and I do too. It's just so wacky. I love it. I don't know when Springtrap became such a deranged villain, though. Like, he's completely insane there. He's just singing songs for no reason. I like it, though. It's fun. Arcade Endo really knocked it out of the park with this role. Oh, this is an interesting detail about the story, not about anything I did in particular. But it's cool, I think. In the Twisted Ones, it's mentioned that fake blood was found at the scene of William Afton's demise. But here you mentioned it wasn't him. He actually did basically die there, and he's barely being kept alive now. And at the end of the book, it's revealed that Charlie is actually a robot, and she has fake blood, meaning that fake blood they found there wasn't William's in the first place. It was actually hers. Something that I think is worth mentioning, because I don't think a lot of people put that together, but it's been hinted that Charlie is a robot basically since the beginning. A lot of people like to say that it was kind of just a plot twist that they came up with at the last moment for the fourth closet, but it's been there all along. It's completely insane, but it has been there the whole time. It's not something they just came up with. This panel's a reference to the painting, The Creation of Adam, I think, is what it's called. Yeah, so it's a reference to this painting. William is doing the exact same pose here. I guess kind of mirrored. Or this is mirrored. But either way, yeah. Thought that was cool. And actually, in one of my future projects, I just remembered, I'm actually going to have a reference to it too, in particular to these two hands. So keep an eye out for that whenever that project eventually comes out. I just remembered that. Huh, interesting. Okay. Oh, this is cool. There's not just with Charlie and fake Charlie, where their voices kind of will switch out and transition between each other and sort of swap back and forth. But in this scene, John and Henry have the same thing. John's reading Henry's letter, and I was like, hey, Henry hasn't actually had that big of a role in this yet, and I really like his voice actor and the way he has been doing things, so I figured, hey, he should be the one to actually voice this. And so it slowly transitions into Henry's voice, and I think it turned out pretty well. It happens 2 times, I think.
Agony into her made her a reminder not of what I once had, but of the unbearable pain.
Yeah, I think it turned out pretty well. Oh my goodness, this was so annoying. Finding, like, sounds for, like, super specific things, like robots climbing on monkey bars. What is that gonna sound like? It's so annoying trying to find sounds for stuff like that, because what's it gonna sound like? I don't know. What do I even do? Beats me. This is what I came up with. I think it turned out okay.
Okay, where are your parents?
Animatronics.
Yeah, just kind of like servos clicking and stuff. Honestly, it's pretty quiet in the scene to begin with, but it needed to be there or else I think it would have felt kind of too quiet. I always wonder, like, how much background noise I should have in these scenes. Sometimes I think I've ended up with too many different sounds at once. Sometimes I think it's too little and it's too quiet. Sometimes I hit a balance. That's what I'm aiming for, but it's harder than it seems. And this panel is a reference to this meme. Just thought I'd mention. I think it's kind of funny. This was interesting. So Funtime Freddy, at a certain point, Carlton's looking for the missing kid, Jacob, and he can't find him, but he hears a voice. It sounds like a kid's voice, but it's actually Funtime Freddy. And originally I was just going to have Funtime Freddy say it, but then I realized that doesn't make sense, because Carlton thinks this guy is a little kid, but Funtime Freddy doesn't really sound like that at all, and so I was like, okay, well, we need a way for Carlton to actually think that this could be a kid, the kid he's looking for. And I figured, well, you know what? We've had enough weird changing voice things going on with Charlie and John and Henry. Let's do another one. And so here, Funtime Freddy has a child's voice, because I looked it up. He actually does have a voice mimic feature. I had forgotten about that. In the games, he is described as having the ability to mimic a voice to draw children to him, and I figured, okay, well, he can canonically do that, so I recorded my own voice, pitched it up so it sounds kind of like a child, and then I just made that Funtime Freddy voice. And then when he actually catches Carlton, he goes back to his normal voice, because it's just way cooler, so we have to have that as much as possible. But I don't think it worked for that scene in particular to have his normal voice, so I figured, we'll tweak it a bit. And I think it generally works, considering it's actually like a nearly full-grown man pretending to be a child.
Where are you? Okay, well, I don't see you.
You found me!
It also helps that for the most part his voice is kind of muted, because he's like further in the pipes and it's harder to hear him. So I think if it was just you hearing him normally, it would be much more easy to tell it's just me. But because his voice is kind of muffled, you can kind of believe it's just a kid until he shows up and, oh, it's Funtime Freddy. Here a weird thing happens. Charlie and Charlie go into like a sort of memory space where they're seeing each other's memories. It's very weird, and I was like, okay, this is strange. This is where the book goes off the rails, and it's really weird. And I was like, okay, it seems like it happens when they touch heads. It's weird, because the exact same concept happens in Attack on Titan. This is the second Attack on Titan reference to the video, baby. We're gonna go for 3. So what happens, this is actually kind of spoilers, so maybe I'll blur some of this stuff in case you feel like watching it. You should watch it. But these 2 characters are also sort of connected, and they can see each other's memories by touching heads. Isn't that a weird coincidence? It's the exact same concept, and I was like, okay, how do they convey that? They do it through like a little lightning flash. And that kind of works, but I figured, hey, you know what? That can kind of work here too, can't it? That can kind of work here too. And you'll see there's a little spark. And it makes sense because they're robots, so like I think it kind of fits. And it shows that there's some sort of reaction happening, there's some sort of thing happening. Then it cuts to black, and we enter their memories, and it's pretty cool, I think.
Pathetic.
What am I? What are you?
Oh, this is where Funtime Freddy explodes. It's so funny. It's this massive explosion for like one robot, but I was like, hey, That's what they did, so I'm gonna go all out for it. I gave him this big explosion sound. It's like, oh yeah, he's done. But then his head makes it out, like, basically intact. I mean, there's no, like, scorch marks on him or anything, but it's fine enough. Then he kind of, his voice deepens as he powers down, and he's down for the count.
Okay, now I know I'm close.
Thanks for playing. Come again soon.
Are you paying?
I think that voice effect was actually not done by me. I think it was done by Levi himself, the voice actor of Funtime Freddy here. I think he just did it for me, which was helpful. Works for me. That was exactly what I was looking for. So, like, hey, I'll take it. Oh, it's another instance of two characters and their voices sort of melding into each other. This time it's old Elizabeth and young Elizabeth. It's happening again. It happens so many times in this book. I'm a pro at it by now. Taking two different lines and just like, mixing them together.
It's strange to remember the same moment from two pairs of eyes. But then, we were one.
Actually, I think that one was just one line, but then I just pitched it differently. So one sounds like a child and one sounds like the grown woman. That one was easier. This is frustrating. So in the Silver Eyes, it's mentioned that Henry had this weird, like, unfinished robot in his workshop. But it didn't look like this. It looked like a normal, like, Endo 02 type thing. You can kind of see it here in a flashback thing. Completely different appearance. And I was like, okay, nobody's gonna know this is the same thing. I need to convey it somehow. And so I was like, okay, I'll flash a flash of it on screen so the viewers can remember. I don't know. I think it's silly they changed the design. It makes sense considering that originally it was supposed to be Foxy, then it became Elizabeth, and so it's like they're gonna look different. Their endoskeletons are gonna look different. Whatever. It makes sense that they would have to change the design of it, but now it's confusing. That's why you don't retcon things. I don't care. It's a cool design. It looks like a Terminator or something. Oh, this is a cool effect. I had my brother voice a character. Because in the last one I had my other brother voice a character, and I'm like, hey, nobody needs to be left out here. So, other guy, I have a role for you. I was like, hey, Michael and you should be around the same age. Let's do this. And so he voiced Michael. And there's one part where Michael cries out from the robot, from the amalgamation. Do I have water in here? Thankfully I do. I'm thirsty. He cries out from the amalgamation. And so I'm thinking, well, he's going to sound partially like Michael and partially like this terrifying beast. So I made him sound like a terrifying beast. But there's also like a twinge of his normal voice in there, which we'll hear later. Here, for the memory scenes with Carlton and his old friends, we have something that I think is pretty interesting. The song that plays is from the Twisted Ones. It's a somber memory, but I really slowed it down. It is 10% of the normal speed, so it's honestly barely recognizable in my opinion. Let me listen to it here.
Can you get the green for me?
What?
Yeah, it's basically just every note is like 10 times as long, and so it's this droning, but it has the remnants of the song that it was there, and it's throughout these scenes within the memories that it slowly speeds back up again, so it slowly gets closer to the song that it was until we reach the end. Also, to show that it's in the memories, because sometimes it's not terribly clear whether this is in the memories or in real life, I lowered the colors, made it a little less colorful, because I wanted to make it clear, like, this is something that's not quite real, you know? And then in the end, when it slowly becomes, when Carlton slowly goes back to real life, the colors start to come back. And it's sort of completed, you know? I just realized I forgot one. For part of it, I didn't actually make it. I didn't actually dull the colors right after Charlie's death there. I didn't do it. Uh-oh, I better do that now. Okay, we're going to watch me do it in real time. This is going to be so exciting, guys. Okay, we're going to go get our color, drag it down to half of what it normally is. Boom, done. Now we just need to fade it in. Isn't this thrilling? Isn't this exciting? Okay, 0. The colors are normal, and then slowly fades out. And then here, I guess we want it to slowly fade back in. Okay, well, I ended up running into like 100 other technical problems while I was doing that, but got it working. So anyway, moving on. Well, here's a cool use of color. As the real world here, as you can see, starts to blend into the dream, the memory that Carlton's in, the color starts to slowly come back.
Waiting for? Do it.
Oh, look at that. It just kind of fades in. I don't know if you can tell. But it happens. Trust me. Okay, and then finally, here is the epilogue. I don't know if there's anything to talk about here. Quiet, sort of somber scene. John's looking at the graves. All of a sudden, oh, it's Charlie. Or is it? We may never know. This song, I swear, it reminds me of Dire Dire Docks so much. Don't tell me you don't hear it. And the credits roll. Originally, I was going to have the Fourth Closet song, the main theme, play there. I think this one works better, though. I think it fits the tone better. And the credits roll, and as I mentioned before, here we've got the sort of outlines of all the characters, which I think looks pretty cool. And then, yeah, I mean, you probably saw this a moment ago before you clicked on this video, so do I really need to recap it? Probably not. Yeah. I think I covered everything. I feel like I'm forgetting something, but I'm sure it's fine. What could possibly go wrong? I'm sure it's not important. I've been recording for nearly an hour now. A fair chunk of that was actually fixing that problem I found. Since I haven't technically finished chapter 9 yet, I haven't gone over it yet and like made sure it all is good. So I fixed one thing there, but yeah, been recording for long enough either way. So I hope this was somewhat interesting. Check out the bloopers if you haven't already. Check out, I don't know, any of my other videos, honestly. I mean, hey, okay, actually, you just saw an hour and a half video. I think you're fine. Honestly, if I were you, I'd be tired of my videos by now for the time being. Take a break. Go outside. I don't know, do something. It's fine. I'll be waiting here when you come back. That's okay. Oh, we do have our watch party of the Fourth Closet, which will be happening sometime soon. I don't actually know when we are going to have that. I don't know what day is going to work for me, but we'll find out. Keep an eye out for it. It'll be with everyone from the cast, not just me. So it should be more interesting. All right. See you soon.